Good morning, Jay. Hi. It's me, Riley. I'm one of the floaters at church. I just kind of do a little bit of everything, but just wanted to stop in and tell you guys that I really miss seeing your bright smiling faces every week at church. It's really taken a toll on me not being able to not only get out of the house, but interacting with people. So I guess this is just something that I can do in the meantime until we get back to our daily lives. But I wanted to stop in and just tell you guys to keep connecting with God in this time. It's just a really good idea. But just remember that we have Zoom chats a lot of the times during the week. For the boys, so we have an 8th grade Zoom chat on Tuesdays at 3 p.m. And then we have a 6th and 7th grade one on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. And then for the girls, we have them all at once. We have one on Tuesday at 7 and one on Wednesday at 3. So just keep that in mind if you want to bring a friend and just come connect with not only your leaders, but also God and your friends. It's a really good idea. I'm on almost all the girls' ones, so if you want to stop in and say hi, I'll be on. Remember that on Friday we have a virtual game night, which is going to be really fun, but I know I'm going to be there. The winner gets food delivered to their house by Katrina, and it's just gonna be a really fun time. So if you want to bring friends and stop in, it's gonna be a really great time. But I just wanted to let you guys know that you guys are in my prayers and in my mind. I miss all of you so much, but just stay connected with not only God but also yourself, because it's easy to get lost during this time. So all right, I'm gonna head out, but I love you all so much.
Hey guys, greetings from the land of constant pajama bottoms and 3 days without showering. Hope you're doing well. Hey, let me ask you something. Have you ever felt sad when you came to the end of something that was really great? I'm talking about the last day of summer camp or the last day of your family's beach vacation. You know, maybe the final game of the winning season, maybe the last day of school. Probably not that last one, but you get what I mean, right? There are things that are so good that we just don't want them to end, but they eventually do. And when they do, we're left feeling, well, kind of sad, or hollow, or even hopeless. And that's just the minor things in life. What about the big league events? I'm talking about a breakup. I'm talking about one of your friendships that falls apart. I'm talking about divorce. I'm even talking about death. How do we keep moving forward when it seems like we've come to the end of the road? Well, I've got a word for you today on that subject, and that word is Easter. When I was in middle school, I read a book that ended up becoming probably my favorite of all time. It was this massive book, about 3 inches thick, and it took me all of 3 months to read it, reading it every day on the bus. It was this awesome story about a bunch of teenagers that came together, fought all sorts of monsters and a killer clown. And because it was so long, and because it was so well written, I started to feel like I really knew the characters, like they were real people. Well, this is gonna sound a little odd, but as I got towards the end, I started to get anxious. I could see how many chapters were left, and eventually how many pages were left. And I was excited to get to the end, to know what happened to my friends. And when it did end, well, I have to say, I felt actually sad. It was as if I was saying goodbye to some really close friends for the very last time. So if a book or a movie series that you watch to the end can make you feel this way, imagine what the real endings in life can do to us. Or maybe you don't have to imagine. Maybe you have in your mind right now one of those endings. Maybe you broke up with your boyfriend or girlfriend. Or maybe your best friend moved 2 states away. Or even worse, maybe that relationship ended in an ugly, explosive argument. You know, a lot of us have seen our parents go through a divorce, something that was meant to last forever, but didn't. Or maybe you know someone close to you that got sick and didn't get better. Death is probably one of the hardest things for us to wrap our human minds around. But not to bum you out, but the death rate for humans over time is 100%. And we do our best to try not to think about it, but sometimes things happen in our lives that force us to confront that reality. When I was a kid, my church had this special tradition called Ash Wednesday. See, it was this special church service that took place late winter on a Wednesday, where the pastor would take ashes and make the sign of a cross on your head. And when he did, he would say these words, "You are dust, and to dust you shall return." Harsh, right? But the point of the service was to remind us of something that we don't like to think of. The reality that every living thing on this planet, from trees to grass to dogs to deer to us human beings, eventually dies and returns to the soil. You know, the word human, which is what we are, comes from the word humus, which is a fancy Latin way of saying dirt. You are dirt, and to dirt you shall return. If that were the last word that we were to hear on this subject, well, that would be pretty bleak. But as I said at the beginning of this, for those of us that believe in Jesus, our last word is not dust or soil or death. No, our last word is Easter. I hope you had a good Easter. I sure did. I ate about a dozen Cadbury eggs and now my body hates me. But aside from the baskets and the eggs and the plastic grass, I hope you also had a chance to hear the Easter story read to you. You know, it is a story of hope for a world that could really use it right now. You know, before Jesus went to the cross, he tried to warn his friends. You gotta understand, these are young men that had spent 3 years traveling with him, learning from him. He had become their closest friend, and Jesus knew that this ending was gonna be hard for them. And so he tried to prepare them with what was gonna come next, and he did it like this. Here's what Jesus said. Listen carefully. Unless a grain of wheat is buried in the ground, dead to the world, it is never any more than a grain of wheat. But if it is buried, it sprouts and reproduces itself many times over. What Jesus is saying is, listen guys, this is gonna get bad. This is gonna look like the end of something. But you guys are gardeners, and you know that that grain of wheat looks like something dead. But when you put it into the ground, well, something comes alive. And you're gonna have to trust in that. See, this is really cool. God has written the story of resurrection into the very fabric of this earth. Then this is a perfect time to see it. When you go outside, you see the world coming back to life. Flowers are blooming, trees are budding, the birds are back. You know, if you are 13 years old, you've lived through 13 of these transitions of life to death and back to life. I've seen 45 of them, and each time it's astonishing when the world that looks dead springs back to life. This is God saying, look at me. My business is taking dead things and making them alive. I did it once, I do it every year, I will do it again. You know, years after Jesus died and rose again and returned to the Father, people had a lot of questions about what had happened and what was going to happen to them. So a man named Paul tried to answer some of them. He wrote a letter to a church he had started in the city of Corinth. This is what he said. Then, when our dying bodies have been transformed into bodies that will never die, this scripture will be fulfilled. Death is swallowed up in victory. O death, where is your victory? O death, where is your sting? For sin is the sting that results in death, and the law gives sin its power. But thank God, He gives us victory over sin and death through our Lord Jesus Christ. Paul promises his readers that just like God gave Jesus victory over death, He'll give the same thing to us. You know, He even mocks death in a way. Come on, death, where's your sting? Where's your victory? In the same way that Jesus was undefeated by sin and death, so are we. Now, don't get me wrong, you're not invincible. You are compost, and to compost you shall return. But that's not the end of our story. No, it's actually just the beginning. So, what do we do with all this? Well, for one thing, we can stop worrying a little. You know, and that's good news in this time when there seems to be a lot of things for us to worry about. Yeah, things are kind of bad right now, and honestly, things could get worse before they get better. But when you know the ending of the story, well, the rest of it all seems just a little bit more bearable. And the Easter story can help us deal with the hard endings in our life. Yeah, maybe that breakup was bad, and maybe you felt dead inside for a long time after. But God excels at bringing dead things back to life. And the Easter story reminds us that love conquers all. Divorce is hard and messy, and God may not resurrect your parents' marriage, but healing will come, as sure as that dead-looking seed will come back to life, given enough time. And death itself will always be a sad thing this side of heaven. And it's okay to be sad when someone we're very close to passes away. But that sadness comes with hope. Hope that our grandmother, our aunt, our friend will live again because Jesus lives again. You know, Paul wrote something like this to his friends in a book called Thessalonians. And he said something along the lines of, it's okay to be sad in these moments, but we will not be sad in the way that the world is sad, because we know Jesus. And we know, even in our sadness, they will live again. And we will live again. Listen, this is a great time to get outside again. Sure, stay 6 feet away from people, but get up close with trees and flower beds and gardens. This is the season of resurrection, when the world is coming alive again. And this is God reminding us that whatever the situation, whatever the time of year, Easter is coming. Thanks a lot, guys. Peace.